What happens when you're done writing your application and you want it to go live on the internet? Well, you can run it locally on your computer, but that's going to have to stay up forever. Jokes aside, it's time to deploy. That scary word that companies normally use is actually not that complicated, especially not if we're talking about a small application. Ever heard about Kubernetes, AWS, Google Cloud? You actually don't need them. A few years back, we had Heroku. That was the go-to tool to deploy any small application or larger one to the internet. As with many others, unfortunately, Heroku was acquired by big tech and its free tier is now dead. But today, you have lots of options. One of them, with an amazing free tier, is Fly.io. Fly wraps the infrastructure for you. It enables you to deploy, view logs, monitor your application, even debug it if you want, back up the database, create persistent volumes, and tons of lots more features. Today, we're going to cover everything that has to offer and more. My V60 brew is ready to go, so I'm ready to start. Brew install flyctl will get you the command line right where you need it, and then you can start working. I highly recommend going straight to the documentation, which is absolutely excellent. If you go to the quick start, you've got Run a Rails app, Elixir, Django, also for Go. This is a Golang application, so I started from there, and with just a few commands, you're up and running. Fly Launch is the first one, and once you're authenticated, you will create a machine. So I'm listing my machine, which is already up and running, and you can see it has its own name and a certain deployment. Fly recommend that you deploy more than one application, especially if it's running a persistent volume like I do for production purposes, so you can have some kind of redundancy. I don't do that, but it's worth mentioning. By the way, the CLI lets you extend some of the things it's exporting in a JSON format, for example. So I'm using JQP here. You can catch another video where I presented JQP and other useful tools. This one just queries JQ on the fly on JSON instances. So I can check a little bit about what's going on with the existing machine. Since it's one machine, it's not all that useful, but it does help if you want to find something very, very specific, especially if you're creating some kind of scripting mechanism around your deployment. You don't have to though. I'll show you why a little bit later. So you just type Fly, you can see the different things you can do: launch an app, describe the app. You can create a Postgres instance, a Redis instance. I don't do that. I went straight ahead and created an SQLite instance that sits as a file on top of my persistent volume. I can query the logs, as you've probably seen before. Super easy to just fetch them into your CLI, and if something's not working in production, you can see it right away. Kind of resembles the way you'd use kubectl and Kubernetes, if you know that. You can obviously check the same thing exactly on the website. Another cool feature is being able to SSH and getting a shell on top of the machine that's currently running. You do that by running fly SSH, and with -s it lets you select the instance type, or the instance rather, that you have running and connect to it. That's helpful if you want to run certain tasks or understand what's going on within the environment. Using the dashboard is also extremely useful, and let's see why. When you log in, you can see the machines. You can also create kind of extended features that I'm not using, like creating a team and follow your billing, etc., etc. I'm just reviewing the basics here without paying anything. We'll review the pricing at the end of the video. So I have a machine running. You can see how much resources it's consuming, what's the average network in, network out, the delay, the load, etc., etc. If I pop to monitoring, I can see the same logs that I've run. And if I pop to metrics, I can see a nice graph of what's going on in terms of resources like data transfer, memory, etc. But the cool thing is that it all fetches info from Grafana. So if you open Grafana is essentially something that can collect data from various data sources and present them in a nice dashboard. So all of the dashboards here are pre-configured by Fly for you, so you can check out the different regions in the world, obviously the network traffic, incoming, outgoing, memory, resources of CPU, etc., etc. For example, I'm querying the memory here. You can see I have some kind of a memory issue. You're welcome to help me with that, but it's cool, it's nice to see, and it's really easy to debug what's going on with the application. And again, zero configuration here. I didn't do anything. It all came by default from Fly, as soon as I launched an app. Another nice feature is the audit. So when you go to activity, you can see what went through the app. Obviously, I'm the only developer and the only deployer, so nothing much to do there, but it's nice to see. Another feature that I found that helped me a lot, I wanted a way to be able to copy the database instance. Again, I'm using an on-disk SQLite, so I wanted to copy the fat.db file. And in order to do that, I had to proxy my machine to the machine that's running my application. And for that, you have a command that's called fly proxy. So you can literally proxy yourself to the server and then do certain stuff right from there. So I'm proxying myself and then using SCP to copy the file back to my machine. So we talked a little bit about auto deployment. For that, Fly provide a GitHub action. They provide a lot more other options. I'm running on GitHub, obviously, an open source project. So I just picked up the action that lets me run CI. And now every time that I push to, in my case, main branch, this action is being run in production. And there's a job that's literally running and creating Fly deploy for me. And this is the action. If you go to the docs, it's super easy. I didn't have to change almost anything. And you just put it in your GitHub action under workflows in your GitHub repository. That's all there is to it. That's obviously super nice because you don't always want to deploy from your machine. If you're getting a merge request like I did and you approve that, then this pull request goes into main and automatically deploys itself into production. A word about pricing, which is pretty generous. The free tier lets you get 3 GB of storage, 3 small VMs, and 16 GB of data transfer. It's not much, but for most small applications, especially open source ones, one like my Telegram bot, this is more than enough. Even more than enough if I would like to load balance for high availability, which I don't, but do check it out. Even Heroku back in the days did not have that generous of an offering. Everything covered here is very much the basics with Fly and by no means a legit thorough coverage of everything they do. If you go through the docs and everything that they publish, you'd find builders and different types of architectures and documentation around how to develop UDP services and supporting obviously TLS. You can build secrets, you can create private networking, you could create load balancing. Really a lot of the features that you use within AWS are configured and ready to use within Fly with far more ease than you'd get on other famous cloud providers. I highly recommend first using it, second reading the docs, and just getting into the thing and understanding it. Here's another video for you to catch, and I will see you on the next one.